Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today we are going to be making a quick little project, quilling paper Starfish. I have two different widths of paper here. I have 1/8 inch, which we're going to be using for the starfish body, and 1/16 inch paper, really thin. We're going to be using that for the little suckers on the starfish. For our tools, you can use a slotted quilling tool for most of this project, but you are definitely going to need a needle tool for some as well. Tweezers are going to be really helpful because some of these pieces are going to get very small. I have my Elmer's glue all in my needle nose bottle, and then also some Aleene's tacky glue could be helpful at some points. We are going to be using the cork board and some pins, and then optional part at the end is going to be using our crimper to add some crimped elements to our starfish also. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is make the body of the starfish. So I have my paper here I'm going to be using for the starfish itself. It's a color called Papaya from Craft Harbor Paper. It's about 22 inches long. The size doesn't necessarily matter for your strips as long as you're using two pieces that are the same size. So I took this 22-inch paper, I tore it in half, and now I have two pieces that are exactly the same size, and I'm rolling them up from start to finish on my needle tool. You can use a slotted tool for this part if you prefer. I'm going to let it open up in my hand just a bit, not all the way super loosey-goosey, but just a bit to get it nice and open in the middle. Holding the center just so that stays sort of central. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue and get that set. And I want to do the same thing to the other half of that strip that I tore so that I get two that are about the same size. If your paper strips are different lengths, you can make these different sizes. These sizes that I'm using here, my starfish ended up being about 1 inch or 1.5 inches from end to end. So if you use different sizes, your starfish might come out to be a different size. That is totally fine. You just want to make sure that you're using two different strips that are about the same size. And I'm holding them up here as I'm letting it open to kind of make sure I'm not letting it go too far. And they're going to be more or less the same diameter, these two coils that I have here. And just get that one set for a second. That should be good. And now I have two coils that are about the same size. I'm not worried for this particular project about the coils in the center being perfect because we're going to be folding these in a second and pinching them. So that's okay. So I have the seam and I'm giving that a tiny pinch. And then I'm going to turn it to the side and give a long pinch on one side, trying to get the eye of this coil in the center, but it's okay if it's not. And then another small pinch on the other side. So we're looking here is a sort of a long sideways triangle. Whoops. Then we're going to do that again in just a second. Push that one to the side. Okay, so again, we're going to find the seam. Just to kind of hide the seam is why I'm doing it this way. Give it a small pinch, turn it to the side, holding the center of the coil in one hand, give it a long pinch, and then a small pinch on the other side. And then just kind of shape it all up for a triangle. This is not a shape you're going to see very often in quilling, but it is working for this project. And at this point, once you have your two triangles, you're going to glue the two long ends together. I am using tacky glue for this part of the project just to make the setting time a little bit faster. It makes the video go a little faster. You need a really tiny amount of glue though. So I just added sort of a dot and then spread it out a little bit. And then get those two long ends together. You can hold it as it dries if you'd like to, or you can use your cork board and some pins, which is what I'm going to do here, so that I don't have to hold this, and then I can move on to another part of the craft. A couple of pins in the top there. And sometimes it's helpful to put it right through the eye of the coil too, just to make sure nothing is shifting. You just want to make sure that they stay really tight together as they dry. There we go. And make sure everything's flat, nothing's drying crookedly. And then you're going to need 5 of those, whatever shape you made them. You want 5 that are the same, because this is a starfish, and starfish have 5 points to them. These are what's going to end up being the points. Now we do need 1 more strip of the same color, whatever you're using. I'm using this papaya. I need a strip that's about 3 or 4 inches long. And all I'm doing is rolling this again and then taking it off my tool, not opening it up too much at all, gluing it and letting that set. This little piece here is because the 5 points of our starfish, the way we're making them now, don't completely connect in the center. So we need something to kind of fill in that little gap. This is the little piece that's going to fill in the gap. Again, it's about 3 or 4 inches. Roll it up tight. And then glued to seal. Very, very small. Okay, at this point we have all of the pieces of our starfish body, and we can start putting these together. Either Elmer's glue or tacky glue will be fine for this. We're just going to use the little needle nose bottle of Elmer's. So I have my one leg there, I just put glue on. I put it on all of the short sides and then in the center as well. And then notice I have that little peg we just made right in the center. And then the short angles of the little triangles that we made, that's what's going to connect to each other. And then the peak is going to hit that little peg. So you can see how I needed that little filler in the center there. And we're going to do the same thing to the last 2. And right there. It's okay if these don't meet up 100, 100%. You can kind of manipulate them and push them in a little bit. You can use pins to keep them in place while they dry. That's okay, because we're going to be covering some of this. So if they don't meet 100%, you're not going to notice. This one came together pretty nicely. So that's the beginning of our starfish. Makes a perfectly nice star by itself. And next we're going to move on to that really thin 1/16 inch paper. And we're going to be making the little suckers for our starfish. And I need a bunch of strips of these at different sizes. So the first one I tore there was about 3 inches long. I only need 1 of those. I'm going to need 10 strips that are 2 inches long and 5 strips that are about 1 inch long. So here's just an example of what those different strips would look like. Don't make yourself crazy over those measurements. Just make sure you have 1 that's longer than the rest, 10 that are medium size, and 5 that are small. And this is where it becomes important that you're using your needle tool instead of your slotted tool. You're going to roll this up all the way from end to end. Each one of these different sizes is all going to be made the same way. Add a little bit of glue while it's still on your tool, and then roll it up to set it. Try to make sure that they're as flat as possible. Notice I pushed mine against the end of my tool just to make sure everything's in line. And that's what's going to make all the little suckers for our starfish. Once you get all of those made, you can start putting that part together as well. I have my biggest one here, that one that I made that was bigger. I'm going to put it right in the center. And then I have the 10 medium-sized ones that were about 2 inches long. This is where the tweezers are really going to come in handy. I put 2 of these on each leg. And you can play around with the suckers if you want to just kind of do a sprinkling of them, if you want to do more, if you want to do less. Totally up to you. So I have 2 of the medium-sized one going right down the middle of the leg, and then 1 of the smallest ones towards the end. And we're going to do the same thing for all 5 of these legs, exactly the same way. Now, if you can't find the 1/8 inch paper for the body of this, you can use wider paper. Just be aware that if you're using metric measurements, this would be about 3mm paper. And then for the little suckers, that really thin paper would be about 1 millimeter. If you can find that easier than the 1/16 inch, but I will leave links to the papers that I'm using in the description box as usual for this video. Now let's just cruise on to the end here. They're all going to be made the same way, each of these legs. All right, so this is where the optional part comes in for the last step of our starfish. I'm using my paper crimper here at the smallest setting, to the tiniest teeth, and just running a strip of that same orangish, that papaya paper through. I'm going to need almost this whole strip. What I'm going to be doing is wrapping the outside with 2 layers of that crimped paper to kind of give it sort of a fluttery, I don't know, I think it looks a little bit more realistic than just having it without, but this is a judgment call. You can go either way. It just gives a little bit of texture on the outside, and I think it kind of adds to the look. So to start, I'm adding some glue down one side of one of the little legs of my starfish, and going to line up without pushing on my crimps too much because I don't want to lose that texture. Line up my strip and kind of burnish it with my tool. And then I'm going to turn a little bit of glue to the next section and get that set up. And then same thing in the corner. I have my needle tool again. You can use a little toothpick if you have that instead. I like to just poke it into the corner, just make it really flush and in there. It helps it set up and it just makes it look a little bit more finished. And then a tiny little peek to the end of the leg. And then we're just going to keep going around each section, a little bit of glue, each part. And then get the paper set up in there and push it down in the corner. And get the next section set up and make sure that you pinch the little peaks of the starfish. And we're going to keep going all the way around until we cover it entirely twice. I did once as an experiment when I first started this little optional part, and I said, it doesn't really have the right look. So now we're going to do 2 layers, and I think that just made a big difference. Now I am coming up to the end of my second pass. So before I glue this last section, I'm just going to poke it down in that corner just to get an accurate measurement of where the paper should end. That's just going to give me a little crease there where I think it will be done. And I have scissors here. If you want to tear it, that's fine too. Just be careful you don't pull it off. Poke that in there. And the last little peek. And that is that. Like I said, I just think the crimped edge just makes it a little bit more textured, just a little bit more realistic for our little paper starfish. If you don't want to do that crimped part, totally fine. Here's one without, still super cute. 100% up to you. I have a little bit of a darker orange here. This is a color called Blush from Quilling Creations. So these strips are a tiny bit smaller, but even this one's like a little happy guy, like he's jumping for joy. So whatever color you'd like, you don't have to go the orange route. I was just feeling a little bit coral, feeling a little bit of this light orange. There we go. Just a quick little project for this week. My kids are on vacation, so I needed something kind of fast to share with everybody, and I think this worked out great. As always, if you have any questions, don't forget to leave them in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I can. There will also be links for all the tools and supplies that I use in the description box for this video. in addition to a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can leave a little bit of extra support if you wish. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe though so you can be around for my next video, and I will see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.